All right, let's talk about a man who literally redrew the map of the world. He started with nothing, an outcast left to die on the brutal Mongolian steppe, but he rose to build the largest single land empire in the history of humanity. This is the incredible and incredibly violent story of Genghis Khan.
And it all kicks off with this really chilling prophecy. Back in 1162, a baby named Temujin is born, and the legend goes that he came into the world clutching a clot of blood in his tiny hand. The local shamans took one look at this and said, yep, this one is going to rule the world. But, the path to get there, it was going to be paved with an unbelievable amount of blood.
So here's how we're going to break it down. We'll start with his brutal childhood, then watch as he unleashes his wrath on the world. After that, we'll meet the incredible commanders who made it all possible. And finally, we'll try to get our heads around the absolutely shocking legacy he left behind. Okay, so first things first. To understand the man, you have to understand the world that made him. Before he was the great Genghis Khan, he was just a kid named Temujin, and his life was all about survival. I mean, his early years were just one tragedy after another. When he's only about 10 years old, his father gets poisoned. And then his own tribe abandons him and his family, just leaves them to starve on the steppe. Survival made him completely ruthless. He even killed his own half-brother just to secure his place as the head of the family. And then, as a young man, his new wife, Bert, gets kidnapped. But all this hardship, it didn't break him. It forged him into something harder and scarier than steel. And that experience taught him what might be the most important lesson of his life, summed up right here. See, when his wife was taken, Temujin didn't just charge in like some hero in a story. He knew he was weak, that he'd get crushed, so he ran. He patiently built alliances, gathered his strength, and only when he was ready did he come back and completely annihilate the guys who wronged him. That became his whole playbook. Wait, plan, and then unleash absolute hell. And that playbook, well, it's what fueled his legendary rise. In this next part, we see the outcast Temujin transform into a force that would terrorize the known world. By the year 1206, he had done something nobody thought was possible. He united all the warring Mongol tribes under a single banner. This wasn't just some temporary truth. He basically created a new nation, built on merit and loyalty, not old family rivalries. It's then that he's given the name we all know, Genghis Khan, the universal ruler. And with this brand new, unstoppable army, he looked south to his first major target, China. Right away, his genius for warfare was obvious. The Great Wall was supposed to be impenetrable, so what did he do? He just went around it. And in only 9 years, he brought China to its knees. But the full force of the Mongol storm, that was saved for when he turned west. The Khwarezmian Empire made the single worst mistake in its history. They executed his diplomats. His response wasn't just a war, it was what historians literally call a world catastrophe. His punishments were designed to be the stuff of nightmares, to spread terror so no one would ever defy him again. The governor responsible for killing his envoy, he had molten silver poured into his eyes and ears. And when his own son-in-law was killed in the siege of a city called Nishapur, his rage was absolute. He ordered his army to kill every single living thing inside the walls, men, women, children, even the cats and dogs. They say the pyramids of skulls they built could be seen for miles. But here's the thing. Genghis Khan didn't conquer the world by himself. He had this inner circle of absolutely brilliant and terrifyingly loyal generals. They were the instruments of his will. He called them my 4 dogs. Now to us, that sounds like a massive insult, right? But in the Mongol culture of the time, it was the greatest honor you could receive. It meant you were as loyal and as ferocious as the best hunting hounds, that you would never, ever back down. And these were the 4. You had Jibi, the arrow, who was actually a former enemy. Genghis was so impressed with his bravery that he pardoned him and made him a general. Chelemy, his childhood buddy, was so trusted he was literally immune to prosecution for any crime. Then there was Kublai, the wise administrator. And finally, Subutai. They called him the war god, and honestly, he might be the greatest military mind in all of history. Each one of these guys was a legend, and the things they accomplished, it's just mind-bending. Jebe led his army over the Pamir Mountains in negative 40-degree weather. Kublai somehow managed all of northern China with a tiny force of just 20,000 men. And Subutai, get this, he did what Napoleon and Hitler both failed to do. He conquered Russia in the middle of winter.
His armies pushed so far west, they were knocking on the door of what we now call Italy. So, after all the battles, all the conquest, what's the final score? What is the lasting legacy of Genghis Khan and the empire he built on blood and terror?
It's kind of ironic. In his last years, the man who seemed to control life and death on a global scale became obsessed with his own mortality, desperately searching for some kind of potion for eternal life. He never found it, and he died at 65. But what he left behind was almost immortal, the largest single land empire the world has ever seen, stretching all the way from Poland to the Pacific Ocean.
But that empire was built on a foundation of skeletons. The cost in human life it's almost impossible to comprehend. Modern historians estimate that the Mongol conquests led to the deaths of around 40 million people.
Now, 40 million is a huge number anytime, but back then, to put that into perspective, that was about 11% of the entire world's population. Think about that. His wars may have wiped out more than 1 out of every 10 human beings alive on the planet.
But his legacy isn't just one of death. It's also written in our DNA. Because of his many wives, consorts, and powerful sons, his genetic lines spread like wildfire. Modern science has revealed something incredible. Today, it's estimated that 1 in every 200 men alive is a direct descendant of Genghis Khan. His bloodline is almost as vast as his empire was. I think this quote just nails it perfectly. If the Mongol Empire was a hurricane that completely reshaped the world, then Genghis Khan was the calm, calculating eye of the storm. And his 4 dogs, they were the furious, destructive winds that flattened absolutely everything in their path.
So, how do we even begin to judge a man like this? Is he a conqueror, a unifier who connected East and West and created a new world? Or is he a monster, a genocidal maniac who drowned continents in blood? The terrifying answer is he was both. What do you think?